You're watching Medfield TV, Community Shows.
Alrighty, I'd like to call to order our school committee meeting this evening. We were just in executive session to discuss with respect to collective bargaining with the MTA if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body, and to discuss an open meeting law complaint filed after this meeting was posted. At this time, we'll take any public input. No mad rush. All right, we'll go to the minutes.
Madam Chair, I've reviewed the minutes of September 16th and 17th and October 16th. I'd like to make one correction on the other items since posting the September meeting. It says Ms. O'Shea Brooke stated that because of Mr. Bonfatti's departure, I think it's more accurately stated expected departure. With that change, I move that both the September 17th and October 16th minutes be accepted.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, minutes approved. New business. We're going to move out of order slightly because I believe Ms. Tremblay has another commitment, so you're first on deck, please.
Hi there.
Hi.
Good evening, everyone.
You gotta go up there, I'm afraid.
Sorry.
We'd love to be able to see you, but the microphone there.
Sorry.
It's because we have
Okay.
such a big audience at home. We want them to be able to hear and see.
Okay. And where should I direct myself to the camera? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you sing us a song while we're
I know.
I wouldn't worry.
Here we go.
go.
Okay, so good evening. Thank you for having me here. My name is Anne-Marie Tremblay. I'm the choral director here at Medfield High School. And I'm here tonight to request approval of a performance trip for the Medfield High School Jazz Choir. I have a packet that I gave to Mr. Parga that has our preliminary travel and performance itinerary, and I'd be happy to talk about any of those details with you this evening, though many of them are on hold at this point before we can move forward. So the trip is scheduled to take place during the school vacation week in February. It would be February 19th through the 22nd, which is the Tuesday through Friday of the vacation week. So there is no direct impact on instruction. A few highlights of the trip, just to mention, the students will be able to go to Preservation Hall and see some live performances while we were there, and also partake in some performances themselves. We will be, we're hoping to meet up with the professors at Tulane University and have a performance for them and be clinicked by their jazz professors. And from there, we hope to perform at the Memorial World War II Museum. And there are some opportunities for other informal performances as well during our trip. And this trip was something that Medfield High School participated in 2015. It was just the jazz band that year. But it is the tradition for the select groups to go on a trip every other year. So we are going to follow in that tradition this year and take the jazz choir, hopefully, to New Orleans. And I'm here tonight to answer any questions that you may have and to seek your approval for this trip.
This is a company you folks have been using for years and years and years.
Yes, Suburban Tours is a relationship that we've had for all of our music trips, really, for the music department.
And the jazz band's not going.
The jazz band is not going. Okay. No, there wasn't enough interest to have a full ensemble. So, and even an accompanying ensemble for, rhythm section for our group was not possible this year. I think it's more of because of the transition year of our music director. But but I've had my sights on doing this trip for a while, so I want to stay focused. And the jazz choir is used to performing a cappella, so we will do an entire a cappella jazz set. So that's exciting. It's challenging music, so I'm excited to embark on this with our students.
How many students are in the jazz choir?
Well, we have 20 in the jazz choir. We have 15 students who are able to go on this trip.
And is it getting late to be able to, I mean, February vacation is probably the hardest time to get the heck out of Boston. Is that, maybe that's why you're flying through Chicago and then Kansas City on the way back, is it? Do you have time before you have to buy the tickets, or?
We do. This is a good time to solidify everything.
And I apologize for taking out my phone. I was just looking to see when Mardi Gras is this year, and I'm wondering how.
It is after
Phew.
our time.
But are we bumping
there.
up into that, or do you think it's going to be well after and not?
No, I remember looking into the date. I think it was March 5th.
March 5th is actual Mardi Gras. I don't know how far back the party starts, because I haven't.
Right.
done it, so.
No, actually,
No, I'm just looking, I'm looking to keep everybody safe, but otherwise, maybe I'll go and do that. But.
no. Apparently, when they did this tour 4 years ago, they went to the Mardi Gras World as one of their sightseeing opportunities, and they actually you get to see how they make the floats. In preparation for the Mardi Gras. So that's one of our suggested, itinerary.
I did see in my quick Google search that Family Gras, whatever that is, starts on the 22nd, so maybe we're still in this.
I think we're in the family zone. We're in the families, safe family zone.
You understand my concerns.
Absolutely.
How many chaperones would be going with?
Yeah, I mean, you need like a one-to-one on that.
Besides Chris.
We will have 3, so 1 chaperone for every 5 students. Yes.
Is that all staff members?
It's still being worked out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will they need to do any fundraising, or is the jazz choir doing any kind of group fundraising around this to defray the cost, or?
They are. They're doing the Medfield Music Association does the wreath sales every year.
Okay,
So any
that's gonna be
portion
contributed towards that, but the jazz
can be
choir
put
itself
towards.
is not specifically doing.
Yes, and the students have some other ideas
Yeah.
that they're willing to, put together
Okay.
to gather some funds.
Okay.
But it's really not expected. Everyone
Yeah.
signed up regardless of what was already in place, so.
Any further questions?
No, I think it sounds fantastic. An amazing learning experience.
Do we have a motion?
Before I make a motion, I'd just like to state my preference that our chaperones do be our staff members. I think I always think that's better. I think it's tough for kids when their parents, I know parents love to go on these things, and sometimes kids love to have their parents on, but I think it's important that we have staff, and I think we have policy that gives preference to staff in these circumstances. Having said that, I move that we approve the trip.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you, Anne Marie.
And thank you for using your holiday to take our kids
Yeah.
on this trip, because this
Much
is your
appreciated.
time. So
Right.
thank you. It's much appreciated.
No problem.
Now we've got the high school student advisory, folks.
Who's going first?
You decide.
Traditionally.
All right, Ms.
Traditionally, it is
White.
freshmen who go first.
Hi, I'm Carrie White, the representative for the class of 2022. And so far the freshman class hasn't really done much, kind of just transitioning from the middle school to the high school. And on the first day, I think a lot of us were intimidated, but the upperclassmen and teachers were super helpful. And I think it's safe to say that everyone's liking the high school a lot better than the middle school.
Ouch.
Means they were ready to go, Nat. It's that you prepared them that well.
She didn't, when she wrote her remarks, she didn't know you were going to be here.
We had a welcome dance and tailgate, and a majority of the 9th grade went and had fun before the football game. We have elected our student government and student council representatives, and as far as like after school activities, a lot of the ninth graders have joined like fall sports teams and athletics, and clubs are starting up, and I think a lot of the ninth grade has also joined those. And I think that's pretty much it for now. But I'll probably have more next time.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thanks, Carrie.
Good job.
We were just poking at you.
You can see Mr. Parker for a special award later.
Right.
The Night of Excellence.
All right, so hi, I'm Eliza Vara, and I'm the representative to the school committee for the class of 2021. The class of 2021 have transitioned smoothly from being freshmen to sophomores. Many things are going on for the sophomore class. First off, student government made cell phone wallets that we were selling for $5 each. We sold these at Medfield Day, open house, which was September 27th, and we sell them at school lunches. Since we need to start raising a lot of money for prom, we're thinking of setting up a hypnotist show at the high school, and we were thinking of selling sweatpants. And finally, we made a Google Classroom with everyone in our grade so they can hear announcements. Thank you for listening.
Good job, Liza. Good job.
They all squeeze through.
Yeah. Good evening, everybody. I'm Campbell Ayer, the representative to the school committee for the junior class. So far this year, we have made a lot of accomplishments. We have implemented a new way for the class of 2020 to pay their dues. The new system shows the student what they owe for previous years and allows them to pay for next year, which eliminates a lot of the hassle. It also allows them to get the dues in a lot quicker, so we get the money quicker for important payments such as prom. Next year, we would even like to explore the idea of collecting dues electronically, which would be a little bit difficult, but it would definitely eliminate a lot of the hassle that comes with collecting dues. On top of dues, we have also started our catalog fundraiser. The catalog sells all natural and equal exchange goods. Through the fundraiser, we will receive 40% of all money that is collected, and that is quite high for a fundraiser, and it also has zero risk, so we're not going to be losing any money. This money, along with the dues, will pay for future payments such as prom and events in the senior year like the senior cruise and senior gift. Thank you all for listening to me tonight, and that's it. But thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, Campbell.
Thanks, Campbell. Good job.
Hi, everybody. I'm Peter Barrett, the representative for the class of 2019. And recently, the senior class student government has been hard at work collecting class dues from all the students in the grade, not just for this year, but for all years of high school. And this is really important because all students must pay their class dues to receive their diploma at graduation. And these class dues help fund many social events in addition to paying for caps and gowns for graduation. And also the student government has begun planning the annual Christmas dance for juniors and seniors. But outside of the student government, the senior class as a whole has been busy with college applications in addition to the already busy course load of fall semester senior year. And it's definitely been a little hectic start to the year. But I think students, as they begin to submit their early applications, are getting everything a little more under control. And in addition, fall sports are winding down. So golf, a team that I'm a part of, just had sectionals today, actually, which we missed school for, and we played 18 holes over at Easton Country Club. And Henry Riley qualified for states today, which will be next week. And then outside of athletics, seniors have also been very active in clubs. This past Saturday, the Model United Nations Club went to an all-day conference at St. John Shrewsbury High School, which was a really fun, productive conference. And coming up early November, the Model United Nations Club has an overnight conference at Brown. And then finally, the Student Council is busy planning for Pep Rally, which is coming up later in November. And that is what the senior class is up to thus far this year. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Peter.
Good luck with the applications.
Now, just to plant a seed for the next time, not for this one, but as many of you have heard, we've passed a new homework policy. So, if you could just, I'd love to know the students' perspective on that, especially at the high school level. So, if you could just keep that in mind for the next time you report back to us, that would be really helpful. And just also transitioning, I think. Nat hosted a standard-based reporting of at the middle school, which was very informative. And then I know, Carrie, you experienced it at Blake, but no longer at the high school. So I'm just trying to understand the transition and how that's working. So any insight would be very helpful the next time. Thank you.
Thank you, all of
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Thanks.
All right, so we've got the R&D presentations.
So, Madam Chair, as you know, we started doing the R&D presentations a few years ago, and this is a great opportunity for our teachers to work on some exciting projects over the summer that they can either implement when they come back or at some point during the next school year. So we've had great success with that. So this will be a series of a couple of meetings in which we'll have teachers come in and just present. I know last year we did it, we had about 5 or 6 in the same meeting. It was kind of long with, and of course we have the principals tonight as well, and Nat's here, so it might be a little bit longer than normal. So we wanted to break it up over. Yes. We're going to break it up over probably the November 5th meeting and then the meeting after that as well, just so that gives folks some flexibility. I'd ask Carrie Crow to come up first. She had a great R&D project, Medfield Project Happiness, or Happiness Project. It was switch those around? Sure.
Please.
And she actually did a presentation to the SEL Task Force last week as well, highlighting some of the work that she did.
So thanks for asking. I thought it would be helpful, and this is what I did at the Social Emotional Learning Task Force meeting. I showed some slides, but then I asked my students the day before the meeting if they could just share a little bit of their thoughts about what they thought Medfield Project Happiness was. And it's all unedited and not solicited. It was positive, so Nat won't be crying, but we can play that while we're looking at the slideshow, if that's okay. So,
Do you want me to play the first one now, Carrie?
Sure, thank you.
Every Wednesday, Blake Middle School does Project Happiness during advisory classes. What is Project Happiness?
Project Happiness is teaching us how to be more happy and how to make others more happy.
Sure. The next slide or the next voice, whichever, whatever.
It is teaching me how to get calm. We start with a mindful minute. What is a mindful minute to you?
Well, I think a mindful minute is when you start breathing, you think about the thing you think is the happiest place you want to be. And you think about how it looks, how it feels. And you start to calm down if you're mad, annoyed, sad, or disoriented. And the happy place makes you feel good as you feel and you think and you feel happy about it. Thank you.
Thanks.
We are learning about short-term happiness and long-term happiness. What is it?
Short-term happiness and long-term happiness is what makes you happy in short term and what makes you happy in long term.
the short-term happiness, say for example, like gaming, food, winter, because it's one season. Winter, gaming, because you should do it for a long time at it. And then food, because you just eat food and that's it. You get happy because of that for like a short time. Long-term happiness is like family, friends, and making other people happy, because it makes your soul light up, makes you light up, and makes everyone else light up when you do stuff.
Great. So if you just want to put the slideshow. So that was their voice. They are drinking my Kool-Aid, which is awesome. We meet every Wednesday for advisories. All 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are doing the same exact lesson, and we're so lucky at Blake because all of the teachers, all the advisory teachers, have jumped in, even if not has said like maybe they've been pushed in a little bit, but they're embracing it and learning. Are you able to just poke through each one there? So here throughout the school year, advisory teachers are going to engage the students with activities and then share moments of happiness and accomplishments. We have the Project Happiness is based out of California. That's the orange book on the left, and then on the right, that's the curriculum. In the spring of 2016, I had written a grant to the MCPE asking for $450 for some books and the curriculum, and that's what we're using. So the cost for everything that was the cost for the goods, and then your support, which has been incredible for R&D, has allowed us to take the curriculum there and bring it to Blake. We, through Google Classroom, send out the lesson for each week, and again, all the kids in the school are doing the same thing. The first year we had done it, 6th grade did a few lessons. The second year, 6th grade and the red cluster did, and this year everyone's doing it. So this is a picture of Mindful Minute, and Jeff, would you mind reading that, because it's too far for me, but
Step
sorry.
into the picture, see what you might see, hear what you might hear, smell what you might smell, and feel what you might feel if you were actually in the scene.
So we start each lesson with this, and there's a different one for each week, and the same, thank you, the same blurb is at the bottom. And what's been really great is that we're weaving Project Happiness throughout academics and relateds, also doing it, coaching cross country, and so we've been doing affirmations and visualization with the students as well. We're bringing our yoga mats to Nature's Classroom tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. on the bus. Woohoo! And we're going to do some mindfulness, meditation, and yoga while we're there, so that is awesome. Some of the teachers have asked the students to put their mindful picture on their iPad as their screensaver, and that's how they start class, by just having a minute or two. I put up here just, so the month of September was happiness, and those were the objectives. You can click that, sorry. Blake staff in August, when we came back, we did some collages right there during our first 2 days, putting together what brought us short-term and long-term happiness. So we kind of tried to have the staff doing some of the activities that we were going to be asking them to do with the students. This is the 30 Circles of Happiness, which we did at a staff meeting as well, where you write down 30 things within the first couple of minutes that make you happy. And this was an advisory where then the kids went up on the board and each contributed one to the class. This is another activity, what makes you happy through your community, family, friends, and other. And this was what came out of that. So students each got orange or yellow paper, and then they added, and that's the entire 6th grade from last year, so that was cool. This is where the student was talking about long-term versus short-term, so we're really trying to teach them about what immediate happiness is, what's long-term happiness, what's short-term happiness. And then October is appreciation. So you can tell happiness, we're using the acronym. So the H is happy, A is appreciation. So these are the outcomes for that we're hoping for October. And one of the lessons we did, what did someone do for you that you appreciate? Have you ever done something for someone and was that person appreciative? What kinds of things might we be appreciative of? How can you show appreciation, give examples? And then we did this in groupings. And is it ever hard to show your appreciation? Why might be challenging? And I just put on the screen a couple of the responses. Fabulous conversation and discussion. And what I think is so cool is that I run from like 6th, 7th, and 8th. I have the opportunity to go from grade to grade. And so it really depends who's doing the class, but the outcomes are the same. So, we've talked about that it's not like a recipe that you have to follow. Each teacher adds their own flavor, and the discussions have been amazing, and they're really very children-led, so student-led. Then this was cool. I love this one. We did this last week. Can you find something to appreciate that about these 3 situations? I just put one here. So it's rained out again, which we've all had, cross country's been rained out like 3 times. So they came up with, you could do rain dances, sleep in, enjoy family, play outside, play with pets, bake, game night, and read a book. So just sort of, we're not all happy. Like my students, I was telling Jeff the other day, someone said like, so are you this happy at school and then you go home, you don't have to be happy? I'm like, well, ask my husband, but I don't think so. But the whole idea is really to teach like resilience and empathy and just what do you do when things don't work out the way you plan. So we've have the blood drive every year, and Cynthia McClellan added this in for what is happiness is doing something for others. So we're adding this in with the blood drive. We're really trying to weave Project Happiness into more than the 20 minutes of advisory. And she gave one of Eleanor Roosevelt's quotes in here, so I thought that was a good one to add on. Yoga Mats are packed. That's Lake George. This was just a great little Project Happiness. Place a bright yellow sticky note in your work area. And what are you grateful for today? And as we all know, that every time that you put something down, that gratitude, it helps the happiness. And then this is part of one of the videos that we had shown. It only takes one person to change your life view. So I don't know if anybody has any questions, if you've heard anything from any of your kids at home.
Can you talk a little bit about the Twitter over there?
Oh, yes, thank you. So the Twitter, so as Robert knows, I'm new to Twitter, which I jumped in at DLD Day. I went to Robert's class, and he's probably like, why did I ever teach her? Because, but so I said to Diane Horvath, who has been amazingly helpful in like May, June, how are we going to get this out, what we're doing in the fall, how are we going to get this out to the community? And she's like, oh, well, why don't we do like a Twitter? I'm like, okay, well, whatever. You know, I've always made fun of Nat with his tweeting, so I'm like, oh, no.
Still do.
Oh, you still do? Okay. Well, you probably make fun of me too then.
No, listen, I loved it all summer. I made my day every day.
So she said, let's try this, for the month of July. And so we sat down after school one day and just like writing like, you're happy this, you're happy that for the whole month. And it was awesome. So I was on, I thank you so much to all of you who jumped in. I think it got people sort of in the groove of a little bit of social emotional learning and happiness. We, as staff, there were a lot of people that learned a lot of things about people that we did not know, that we are pretty busy over there and don't have a lot of time to know like who's doing what and who's going where. So that was really awesome. And it also just gave everyone an opportunity to sort of, I think it was like a preview of what we were going to do with the kids. And then, of course, we made August Appreciation, because that's the second chapter. It's not going as strong. I'm not off, I'm working, so I was able to do a lot of that work this summer. But it's still there, and we love, you to jump in and likes or whatever. And it's given people. You guys were over at MassQ the other day, last week, and Diane was saying like people were talking about it, and I've gotten to know some other speech pathologists because it's kind of a lonely world of speech and language over at Blake. I'm the one and only. I have amazing speech pathologists who work within the school system, but not middle school. So, so that's been great. And yeah, so my family thinks I'm not on crazy Twitter now, but it's all good. And so I think the parents, I've gotten great feedback from parents. They tell me that they don't post, but they are reading, and I know they are because they've said some really cool things that, so I don't know if anybody has any questions, but thank you so much. Nat has trusted my gut about Project Happiness from the beginning, and Kelly as well. The two of them have been so incredibly supportive, and I would say that the whole staff really is working hard to do this, and it takes a lot because they're busy already, but social emotional learning, as we all know, is so important. So thank you for funding and supporting and liking those tweets. Leo, I've only met you now on Twitter, so thank you.
I have to say, I don't tweet, but it's probably not your primary goal, but I did learn so much about the faculty and staff this summer just watching all that develop.
It was great.
It was really
It
neat.
wasn't the intention. That's what I said to Diane afterwards. I was like, this is so cool, and now we know where everybody was and what they were doing, so it's made some nice connections.
Well, I have to say, in full disclosure, I got it from my professional network who had picked up the impact of what Medfield was doing, and it passed through, and I'm like, what's this Medfield Happiness Project I'm seeing from all my peers from all over the state, and actually in other parts of the country even. And I was blown, again, yet kind of was blown away by the leadership that this district takes in finding something very small, because it has to be digestible, especially over the summer, to be that reminder and to lightly influence and lightly push. And so I know it's being replicated elsewhere because of the influence. So. Very proud to be here because of that. So.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Carrie.
Thanks.
Gwen and Carrie?
So I'm Gwen Sawtell. I teach up at the high school. I had to follow those cute little kids at the SEL task force with this presentation too, so we won't be as charming as them for sure. But we just wanted to come and share a little bit about the summer R&D work that we did. So I'm on the SEL task force, and the committee that I was on was a sort of catch-all student stress committee. There were other people looking at homework and other people looking at schedules, so we were sort of looking at where are other sources of stress for students. And out of all of that conversation all year came this idea that we know a lot of teachers want to be doing this work, mindfulness, stress reduction, building stress reduction skills in their classrooms, but we didn't want it to feel like one more task. So we thought, how could we make this that much easier if every building had like 10 simple mindfulness lessons that were age appropriate? Maybe that would just make it easier. So we got myself and Carrie, and we have representatives from every school you can see up there, Sally DeGeorge, and Kelly Farrell and Tracy Allen, and we met this summer.
So when we met, I think that was our biggest goal is to keep it manageable, especially at the beginning of the school year when everything feels like you have everything times 100. The 10 lessons were really important for us to stick to that, even though there's hundreds that we each wanted to choose. So when we would meet, we would each look at it through a lens of our own building and knowing the teachers and knowing administrators. And I think that is kind of what has made this pretty positive for each building. I'm on the email chain for all 5 schools, and it's been really neat to see it from my lens because everyone really is handling it in different ways, in meaningful ways for their own building and for the kids in front of them. And the ripple effects have been pretty awesome since then. And Gwen started this monthly email, which I love because when I get that, it prompts me to kind of send something out to the Dale Street people. And just kind of like, you have a very nice way with words. Everything that you write is like, you get it, and it feels like if you want to do this, great. If you don't, great. Just like a quick little simple reminder, because I know everyone gets those folders at the beginning of the year, and then next thing you know, it's like completely gone. So not only do we meet to come up with those 10 lessons, but to also kind of like think of different ways to just remind teachers without putting too much on their plate, and for teachers too. And it's been neat to see, because I was on the staff wellness subgroup, and I think it's important for teachers too to take that minute. So mindful teachers are better teachers. So it's just been a really nice, I don't know, the whole process, because it has had some ripple effects. And we started off, so Jeff let us start off kind of the whole day, the very first day back, which I think was pretty awesome. Tracy Allen found this poem that was pretty powerful, and it definitely resonated with a lot of people. So I think that to give us that time to start it off and to kind of make that commitment and show that we're all on the same page, and it ties in perfectly with what Carrie's doing. It also ties in with the library, One Community, One Love theme. So lots of really awesome things happening because of that. So this is just one lesson. Gwen pulled out a couple. This is an example of a memorial lesson, and it's very simple. These are our smallest kids, and it's the bumblebee breathing. So do you want to lead this one?
Sure, yeah. So, I just thought it would be interesting for you to see kind of the thread of this, starting with memorial. So, the lesson is about making the sound of a bee, covering your ears as you're breathing, and sort of that's what mindfulness looks like there. And then the next slide. This is a lesson that you might share at the high school level. So this little video, we won't play it for you, but it just kind of walks very kind of speaking right to high school students. Here's how you might try and meditate at home, if you wanted to give it a try, and then a counting breaths. So a really simple mindfulness practice where you're literally just trying to count to 10 and then go back to the beginning. So both sort of hitting at the same thing, like mindfulness stress reduction is about attention on the breath, but really trying to do it in an age-appropriate way. And then, there are 10 of these that are in some places paired, in some places not, for every building. And that's it.
Super.
Thank you
I
so
think
much.
that one of the pieces that I really liked are the monthly reminders, because as you say at the beginning, there's all this energy and let's do this, and then life sets in. So it's great. I appreciate that. Thank you. Great work, and I loved that poem. It just, I think it's great for everyone to read, because it reminds us that every kind of kid is valued for different reasons. So it's such a beautiful poem.
I think Tracy found that at a mindfulness education thing she was at over the summer, so it's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great job. So we'll have a couple more at our next meeting. and,
Okay, beautiful.
certainly
Super.
Keep you guys up on what we're doing. And
Beautiful. So now we have the principal's opening report. Who's on deck? Missy?
Missy?
What? Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come tonight and speak about the opening of the 2018-2019 school year at Memorial. Very happy to share that we had a great and successful opening, and it wouldn't have been possible without the efforts of the office staff, the nurses, the custodians, food service, and technology, who really work hard to prepare for the return of our students. I would also be remiss if I didn't highlight all of the teachers who come in over the summer, either for R&D or preparing their classrooms for the kids. So, and as a result of all of that, we have welcomed our first graders in on August 29th and our kindergarteners in along with our preschool friends on September 4th. And both openings went very smoothly, as did both dismissals, which is my big my big focus, to make sure everybody gets home where they're supposed to go. So everybody did a wonderful job with that. As of today, we have current enrollment of 423 students at Memorial. Our average class sizes are 13 in preschool, 22 in kindergarten, and 21 in first grade. We had several new staff members join the memorial team this year. We hired 4 new aides. We hired a preschool aide, Gina Hanley, a kindergarten aide, Michelle Kilroy, a first grade aide, Ashley Babka, and an inclusion facilitator, Katie Jewell. We also hired a librarian, Anne Farahar, a full-time special education teacher, Jackie Piccarilli, math specialist Nicole Eby, and first grade teacher Mary Kate Galvin. And all of them are amazing additions to our staff, and we're greatly appreciative to you and the Medfield community for the support that allowed us to bring these positions to Medfield and to Memorial. We have some really great things happening this year. You're hearing about some of the different things, so I won't repeat some of the things that you've already heard about. But one of the things that we are doing this year is a new program called Choose to Be Nice. And Choose to Be Nice is a curriculum that's dedicated to encouraging kindness wherever and whenever possible. It centers around a theme of 9 nice mice. Each of them stand for a particular value, such as Ryan, the respectful mouse, Riley, the responsible mouse. We have kindness, acceptance, courage, all represented throughout the year. And we held a kickoff assembly early in the year, and we introduced the program and really took time to share with the kids why we were doing this program. And at that time, the entire school altogether took the Choose to Be Nice pledge, and then a ginormous banner, which is hanging in our lobby, is signed by every single one of our students at Memorial and every single one of our staff members. And any parents who came to open house that night were also asked to sign individual banners in the classroom, as well as when they were introduced to the program. We will be focusing each month on a different Choose to Be Nice value, and this is in conjunction with what we are doing for Open Circle, as well as social thinking, the mindfulness lessons that you just heard about. So really trying to tie it together. I think you might be able to hear about one of those R&Ds later on this year, but they really worked hard and did an amazing job tying together those lessons so that it makes the language that we're using not overwhelming for the kids, because it's different for each program. So we're really working on tying that together. One other thing that we're also doing is a parent training series. I'm very excited about it. It actually starts tomorrow. So last year we sent a group of teachers out to be trained in a program called Positive Solutions for Families. And so beginning tomorrow, we have 23 families signed up for our first session, 25 children who are coming to take care of advantage of our childcare that our high school students are going to be offering. And it's a 6-series session that runs each month starting in October all the way through March. Pam Forrester, Sally DeGeorge, and Christine Dardia will be facilitating the different sessions with the parents. They focus on things like relationships, play, positive behavior, problem solving, and we're really excited about the possibility. We're hoping in the future, if this one is a really good success, to be able to expand that, offer different sessions at different times throughout. We tried to pick a time that might be easy for families, doesn't interfere with dinner time, bedtime, things like that. So, but in the future, if things go well, we'd like to offer a morning one, an evening one, as well as an afternoon one. So I will keep you updated to see how that goes. We are also trying a recess before lunch pilot at Memorial this year, and so far, so good. We have, there's a lot of research that shows that kids will eat better, that behavioral issues will be reduced if the kids are going straight from lunch into their classrooms instead of from the playground into their classrooms. And it's still early, but so far we've had some really positive results, and we're noticing that the kids are eating their lunches more. It's still a challenge with the 25 minutes. It's always something that with the little kids, when they are chatting, it goes by very quickly, so we're working on that. But overall, it's been really positive thus far, and good feedback from the aides who are out on duty as well. And then the last thing that I wanted to highlight was the full day kindergarten committee that we are going to be having. That also starts up this week. And we're going to be looking at things like our registration process and timeline, the lottery, and future space needs. And that is a committee that will be made up of both parents and staff members at Memorial. So we're looking forward to seeing what comes out of that committee and the suggestions that we get. And then other things that we're working on is a continuation of our FOSS science units and implementing those at Memorial, as well as I know that my colleagues will talk about that at the other elementary schools as well. And we've also added a Bridges Intervention math program. Nicole Eby, our new math specialist, is working with that, and that also bridges Wheelock and Dale Street as well as a more formalized way of supporting our students who are getting a little extra support in math and looking at progress monitoring. So we're really off to a great start. We're very excited about the year. We've got some principals' coffees coming up that will focus on curriculum and assessment, social emotional learning resources that we have available at Memorial, and the student placement process that we always do in the spring. So very fortunate to work with such an amazing staff and amazing principals at the other grade levels. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. I'm particularly pleased to hear about the full day K committee. I think,
Yes.
this goes to show that our school district is continuously trying to improve. I know it was a little dicey at the end of last year, and you're taking that feedback and doing something positive, so thank you. And I think to you and to all the other principals, I'm curious about the homework policy and how that's kind of rolling out at each school, and if it's in stages or just if you could speak a little bit.
Sure, of
to
course.
that.
We're having some good discussions at Memorial about ways to make it consistent for families, but also give teachers autonomy in their classrooms. So each grade level right now is coming together with I guess you could say a message that's going to go out to families about what it looks like at kindergarten and what it looks like at first grade. From a Memorial teacher perspective, we're very excited about it. I think that the overall focus of it being meaningful means a lot at our grade level as well, where developmentally kids are still starting to get used to those routines, and we want to make sure that what we're giving them sets a good stage for them as they get older. So things like reading every night at the kindergarten level is something that we're really focusing on. And then the first grade is also coming up with some different suggestions on the nights that they don't assign a specific task. Things like practicing reading again, math facts and things like that that will be really meaningful and hopefully make lifelong learners out of them. So very excited about it at Memorial. It's suiting us very, very well at the grade level. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Missy.
Good evening, everybody. It's also my pleasure to present to you regarding the opening of Wheelock School this year. Wheelock opened its doors to 402 second and third graders, an increase from 378 in the prior 17-18 school year. We welcomed 10 second grade classrooms of 201 second graders and 9 classrooms of 201 third graders. Class size in grade 2 is approximately 20 students, and in grade 3 it's about 22. The year was a really positive opening of school. We were able to provide our teachers with more time in the building for preparation and collaboration, which I know they appreciated. I joined Missy in also wanting to thank all of our support staff, our maintenance and custodial staff, our secretaries, and the technology department for all of their support that led to another successful opening at Wheelock also. And again, I must commend the wonderful group of educators at Wheelock who work so hard to provide our students with so many positive experiences during their school time. Several new staff members also joined Wheelock this year, and the addition of new staff is always invigorating. Lauren Rogers, Allison Ryan, and Kelsey Parker joined us as new classroom teachers. And we were fortunate to add Eileen Callahan as a .5 special educator, and we welcomed Jen Murphy as a new .5 reading specialist. With the increase in population, those positions were welcome. We have 2 new world language teachers, Matilda Tang for Mandarin and Kathy Ayers in Spanish, and a new physical education teacher who replaced Mr. Slayson, who retired. And we also welcomed several new inclusion facilitators and assistants to our school, including Megan Norcross, Jessica Devereaux, Kirsten Cole, Stacy Lighton, Andrea Lichtenstein, and Sarah Drew and Sam Shea came to us from Memorial School. And again, I echo Missy's gratitude. We're so grateful that we were able to add these positions to serve our students, and we appreciate that. So at Wheelock, school life is busy with many projects and activities. Our first 2 days included professional development around new and existing initiatives. Grade 2 was trained in the Fountains and Pinnell benchmark assessment. So now they join the 3rd grade and Memorial and Dale Street schools so that we have a nice K-5 continuum. That is replacing the developmental reading assessment for our district. Grade 3 spent time reviewing a summer R&D, which you may hear about in the future, which allows for content and literacy integration. Our school plans are aligned, of course, with our district strategic plan and our school improvement plan. So overarching initiatives for Wheelock this year include literacy, science, and social emotional well-being of students and staff. In previous years, math had been at the forefront of our professional development, but at this point we feel we're in a good place with mathematics and shifted that focus to these other areas. As we noted, we're revamping our literacy model to include more opportunities for integration of content. We're also examining and implementing the DESE model curriculum units, which provide comprehensive and aligned programs and curriculum units that allow for robust instruction of literacy. The maps created during our summer R&D allow for those opportunities of integration, thus allowing the teachers to optimize their time. And as with the other schools, Wheelock is spending time on FOSS science kits and the next generation science standards. Early in the school year, the science team leaders, the grade level leaders, the coordinators and I, we all met to kind of backwards design our professional development for the year, given our new model of a half-day professional development. We wanted to ensure that we were really optimizing all of our time and so that we would be able to accomplish all of our goals in these areas for the coming school year. And finally, Wheelock is so committed to its work around social and emotional well-being for staff and students. And over the last few years, we've been embedding many strategies throughout our daily school life. At Wheelock, we've had a mindful moment in the morning, and what that is an opportunity for the children to transition into their classrooms, listen to some soothing music over the loudspeaker, and have that opportunity to do some breathing and start their day in a calm way. Our staff meetings have been starting with a mindfulness lesson strategy tip. Kelly Farrell, our representative on Gwen and Carrie's R&D, has been sharing those tips with our teachers, not only through our Google Drive, but in the moment. We also have a yoga group for our teachers at Wheelock. So all of the strategies we employ from our Hoot program to Time with Franklin truly enhances and complements our Open Circle program, which is our foundational social emotional learning program. And through our committee work on SEL, we've also been able to, have the recess before lunch, so I echo Missy as well. And I love hearing the common thread as we've all strived over the years for that continuity among buildings. I feel the 3 elementary principals have worked very hard for our programs to really build upon one another. And that common goal to try that pilot with regard to recess before lunch has also been very successful at Wheelock. And we've also, to relieve a little bit of teacher stress, have shifted the time of CPT for the teachers. It had been early in the school day, and I'll talk about our building-based SEL committee. It had been proposed that we try shifting CPT to later in the day, and it's been very successful. The teachers feel very pleased that when they leave school, they have an opportunity when they drive home to digest and think about what they discussed at CPT, their common planning time, as opposed to when it's early in the day. It's all of a sudden you turn off that switch, and then suddenly the kids are in front of you again, and you need to carry on with your teaching. So I've gotten a lot of great feedback about that change. Of course, we all can do more around social emotional learning. At our school level, we've been designing a lot of different strategies for our students. And one of the strategies we'll be implementing is taking some of our core values and our behavior expectations and creating banners, colorful banners, and placing them around the school that zero in on expected behavior in a focus area of the building. And fundamentally, all of our initiatives are grounded in what is best for the whole child, and we're working to ensure our students' social and emotional well-being. We continue to utilize those core values as foundations of our work, and we are striving to create that culture that emphasizes respect, responsibility, and safety as our vision for our school. So thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you this evening, and of course, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Donna.
Good luck with this.
Very thorough.
Thank you.
I may need them, but, you know, we'll see. We'll see. I might need them. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Dr. Morrison. Thank you, as well as my colleagues, for the opportunity to come and speak on behalf of Dale Street and the opening at Dale Street this year. I will have to say it's one of the best openings that I've had in my career as an educator, and I think I can attribute this to the excitement of both the students and the staff at Dale Street this year. If I could take a minute, like my colleagues did, and just thank the administrative assistants at Dale Street, Maureen Barrett and Megan Infantino. They are just incredible. They make that school run like a top, and I'm very appreciative of them. Also, Kathy Thompson, who's the district-wide nurse leader and the nurse at Dale Street, does a great job. Custodians Mike Johnson, Steve Burke, and Chris Wilson. Again, probably one of the older buildings in the district, but they have it looking, again, very, very good for the kids that come back. And the member, Owen, and the members of our technology department for all their hard work, because, again, being in an older building does present some challenges, and they work right through it. They're all summer. What do we need? What do the teachers need? So I really appreciate them for that. In addition, like my colleagues had mentioned, the teachers at Dale Street are there throughout the summer. It's almost like some of them don't have a break, whether they're doing R&D, looking to get the next, best room arrangement for their kids to learn. I really appreciate all their efforts within the school. We are fortunate, as well as Donna had mentioned, and Missy, for the committee and also the parents in Medfield that voted in the override to have some great teachers come on board. This year we had Erica Ross came on as a 4th grade teacher. Raylan Carlisle joined us as a 5th grade teacher. Erin Costello also as a 5th grade teacher. We had Mary Loeffner, who did some work at Memorial last year in a long-term sub-role, join us as a wellness teacher. We had a lady by the name Andressa Maletti come into our cafeteria. Monica Mulkern was one of our inclusion facilitators. Recent Medfield graduate, not too long ago, Kelsey McKenzie is joining us, and she's a general ed inclusion assistant. And lastly, Kathleen Scales, who's a physical therapist. Currently, Dale Street's enrollment is 377 students. Dale Street did, for the second year in a row, see a rather large increase of enrollment over the summer. We had 14 new students enroll over the summer, or just at the waning minutes of last year, 10 4th graders and also 4 5th graders. This was only combined with 5 withdrawals, so the numbers definitely did go up. Currently, 4th grade has 9 classrooms. The average class size is 21 students, and that is mirrored in 5th grade with 9 classrooms and an average of 21 as well. Just a couple of things that are happening at Dale Street right now, and I think you'll see a theme here, as Donna had mentioned. Dale Street is looking at new ways to connect our FOSS science kits to the Massachusetts engineering standards. A lot of times now what we're hearing, it's not about the content that's there, it's about the application. So those FOSS science kits are fantastic, really hands-on. The kids really enjoy them. The staff has already participated in a professional development in this area, and they are excited to implement their new findings with the students very shortly. Our whole school, you saw Kerry up here today. She was a big promoter of our summer read, which was loved by Matt De La Pena. It's an amazing book if you haven't seen it, with a powerful message. I don't think there could have been a better message or book selected at this time in our world. There have been connections to our math literacy standards for all of our teachers at Dale, and also be on the lookout as we plan to showcase a lot of our connections on social media throughout the year. Matt will be visiting our students and staff in March, and we're really excited about that. In an effort to improve our social emotional well-being of students and staff at Dale Street has incorporated the breathing mindfulness technique in our morning announcements. Right now we do a 4-4-4 where they breathe in for 4, hold for 4, and then exhale for 4. And our hope is that this strategy, as well as others incorporated throughout the year, will give our students and staff a kind of a piece of relaxation and reduce stress as we begin our days. In addition to that, Dale Street Guidance Counselor Lindsay Warner and school psychologist Elizabeth Strekalowski will be visiting every classroom multiple times throughout the school year, providing lessons supporting the whole child. The first of the lessons begins this week and will focus on empathy in grade 4 and problem solving in grade 5. Dale Street is also involved with the Highlander group, focused on blended learning practices. I am proud to say that grade 5 teacher Julie Lowry is our Fuse Fellow, which basically means she travels to other districts and works with other districts. And we also have teachers Bethany Sager, Amy Scott, Mara Condon, and Kelly Birchman, who are all considered early adopters. And what this means is these teachers will be working with a Fuse Fellow that comes to Dale to examine their lessons related to the priority practices that were selected by Medfield's design team when we met last year. I'm looking forward to making this journey with both Nat and Robert as it's working at all 3 buildings. Dale Street is also piloting a new dismissal program called School Dismissal Manager. The program allows families the convenience of entering tardies, absences, early dismissals, and after-school dismissals. That really helps a great deal in ensuring where the kids are going to be at the end of the day. And with almost 400 kids going to MAP and this friend's house or Girl Scouts, it's really helpful. It also has allowed us a tremendous time to use Megan and Maureen more to their strengths rather than just looking at green slips and placing them in different places. This year, as we had talked about the theme, Dale Street is enjoying recess before lunch as well. After years of research and talking with Donna and Missy, we found that food waste is reduced during this time. Also, students eat and drink more. Kids feel better in the afternoon because they're eating a little bit later, and there is more pleasant eating environment, because I do feel, being in the office sometimes, more times than not I'm in the cafeteria, I do feel that the noise level is actually down this year in all 3 lunches. And there is improved behavior in the classroom, less need for like a calm down period in the afternoon, coming right back in from recess. So it's really worked out well. We do have 25 minutes for recess and 20 minutes for lunch, so that time hasn't changed. But like Donna and Missy had said, all 3 grade levels in both grades have experienced positivity with that going through. At the district level, Missy, Donna, members of all 3 schools, and I have been meeting as part of an elementary report card committee. Our purpose is to create a K-5 report card that represents a student's journey through Medfield's elementary schools. Our essential question and our driver has been, what do we want an elementary student to look like when they exit grade 5? We have had many authentic conversations throughout the last year and have continued this year. To date, we are looking at an organically developed student report card that's standards-based, that truly highlights what a student knows and is able to do. Some highlights include consistency between all 3 buildings, content standards, as well as academic practices for math, ELA, science, and social studies, a more descriptive social-emotional section with indicators that are tied directly to the CASEL social-emotional learning core competencies, and including the specialists in a section on the document rather than having an insert as they've had in the past in elementary school. We still have a lot of work to accomplish, but we are very proud of the work that has been completed to date. Our hope is to visit a June school committee meeting and ask for your approval of a new elementary report card at that time. And with that, thank you for the opportunity to come before you this evening. I'm excited for what the year has in store. The teachers are really working hard. The kids are excited at Dale Street. You know, it's awesome to see. I encourage, if you haven't, to check out the Dale Street blog. It's really a quick flip through if you're at a kid's game during intermission to kind of flip through and see the things that are going on. Just really a fun place to be. I consider myself lucky to be here in Medfield and working with the kids and teachers that I do. So with that, I'll take any questions that you may have regarding any of my remarks or anything that you may have seen or heard about Dale Street.
I've heard from some of the jazzy 5th grade boys that the recess before lunch is a huge success.
Okay, well, that's nice to hear. Thank you.
Eat and they're
Yeah.
psyched.
Being a mother of one of those jazzy 5th grade
Yes.
boys, I think that is absolutely true.
Yeah.
Huge success.
Yeah, it's been really nice, which is great. Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Steve, so I'm just going to quickly add that I've been regularly in the library on Wednesday mornings.
Yes, and we
working
appreciate
with
that.
Carrie. The reason I'm saying this, but I am so consistently impressed by how invested kids are just in reading.
Mhm.
And there's a real independence to the Dale Street Library because of the way Carrie has set it up, and also because, you know, kind of this physical space limitations we had at one point. But Carrie has made that into an enormous positive. And there are kids in and out organically all day long,
Mhm.
looking for books, looking for suggestions, you know, trading books amongst each other. Really so invested in literacy that we're always trying to get kids, and we feel like we're pulling teeth sometimes. And I really feel like at Dale Street, the kids I'm seeing there are just hungry for the reading.
Mm-hmm.
So I really have to say kudos.
I appreciate that. And again, Kerry has left, but a lot of it goes to her, but also the teachers that are there. And when we're doing our Readers Workshop and they have the mini lesson, but then we have the second part of it is independent choice reading to up to 30 minutes. So our teachers have really, again, when we went to school, you had to read this is what you're going to read, but all the research goes against that, especially at the elementary level. So it is nice, and the teachers have to feel comfortable that the kids can go down there and responsible, but it is amazing. Some of our non-readers or some of our kids who really struggle academically are going down there. And I mean, I know you've been down there, Jeff goes through frequently, and sometimes you'll see him on one of the Yogi Bows, you know, just there. But and again, I think with Kerry, but also Jim James has got to be recognized because he is so good to us at Dale Street. So the amount of selections that the kids have is astronomical, and Kerry's just so hungry to get the next titles in and everything. So every Friday we have book recommendations so the kids can fill out what they like, and they come down to the office and read that during announcements. And again, I think that spurs a little bit as well. So it is kind of neat. The kids have what they need, which is awesome, and that's what they deserve. Thank you for
can
that.
really see that they're just a culture.
Thank you.
It's really nice.
Thank
As
you.
with every school, but because I'm there, I
Yep.
see that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Good evening. Anyone else want to roast me or Blake before I start? It's all good. It's all good. So my personal goal is working on self-esteem. So thank you. Genuine thanks to school committee custodians, our support staff, and our students. We had a great opening at Blake this year. This is my 21st year at Blake from a teacher and as an administrator, and it's just been wonderful. So thank you. Our enrollment this year is 599 as of today, and that's 186 sixth graders, 196 seventh graders, and 217 eighth graders. And as I mentioned with the seventh grade, Carrie mentioned earlier, our seventh grade tomorrow morning is heading off to Nature's Classroom out to Silver Bay. Going later this year, part of the calendar, the way it worked out. So it's going to be a little bit of a chillier week, but I think it's going to be great. I want to really thank, in particular, Kelly, also Jen Dundero, who's the seventh grade guidance counselor, and Judy Silva, who the three really just, it's unbelievable amount of work to take the kids out there. And then also on top of it, both Tricia Williams and Amy Keegan are nurses. It's a huge endeavor to take the kids and to act as parents for these 3 nights and 4 days. Looking forward to that. And with that, I just want to touch on, I want to thank Dr. Marsden, Michael LaFrancesca, and school committee for supporting the additional nursing support at Blake. With Amy Keegan 2 days a week, it's been an immense support, so thank you. With that, we have 10 new staff members at Blake. this year. I'm not going to mention each one. I always worry I might forget someone. But that includes reconfigurations and reassignments. It's actually in my 8th year principal. That's the fewest number of new staff that we've had at Blake. It's a lot more in kind of support staff roles, and two new classroom teachers. So Carrie touched on our theme at Blake this year, which is happiness. The prior themes that we've had have been community, perseverance, creativity, acceptance, collaboration, empathy, and then diversity last year. And I think Carrie did a really nice job how Project Happiness led in. I'll say it's sort of a different type of theme, and got a lot of feedback from people saying, are you telling everyone that they always have to be happy all the time? And it's a much more nuanced theme, and very, very layered in that way. So, and I appreciate how our staff really is diving in. And some definitely a little gently nudged in, but doing that work. And I'll talk about how it ties into our advisory work, which has been a topic that we've really been working on a lot this year. So we started our work with that, centering on sort of definitions of happiness as a staff, and really trying to work with our staff, building in the theme. So it's really as a community, and trying to give some strategies for parents, and talking about each week what are the topics going on in the advisory piece to kind of bridge that piece, because I think that's always a constant transition for families, about hearing nothing from the kids when they come in, and just that gap, so that we can build more conversations between home and school with what's going on. And it also really, I think, with that is a nice tie-in that we hadn't always concretely thought about. Was last year's theme was diversity, talking about the idea of a danger of a single story, and that we need to kind of unpack that, and that's true with happiness as well. And I think it's a good reminder for us every day about we never know, both students and adults, what we're each bringing into school each day. And that ties to social emotional learning, how we just can't forget that, and really kind of center that work for all of us to access learning. Our overarching question continues to be, how can we cultivate and curate the progression of student learning and growth, with our 3 thematic goals that we carry through each year of amplifying student learning, curating teaching practices to foster professional growth, which is at the heart of our work, and then enhancing student reflection via both our formal and informal systems of feedback. So some particular focus areas, as I mentioned, our advisory, the last year and this year as well, really doing a significant deep dive look into our advisory program. So the way it's structured is advisory meets every day of the week. It works well during the 5th period opportunity. And it's really, I would say, we have a good problem at our middle school of what to do with advisory. I think fully on board. It's just what do we do with it? And I'll say right now it's feeling full. And we need to really kind of take a step back, because the structure we have is Tuesdays and Thursdays is sustained silent reading. Wednesday is Project Happiness. We also want to do recess, and we want this, and we want that, and all these other activities. And it's full right now. So we really need to kind of take a step back and think, is it too full, or is it just this period of time of year? And kind of looking at that theme, you talk to some staff members that say, well, if we take something away, there may be the concern now we don't have enough to go on in advisory. So I think part of it depends on where the teachers are at and our staff, but we're really trying to take a thoughtful look at the program. What I'm thrilled about is this is the first year we have kind of a curriculum in advisory. I think what we've done in the past has been really good, making connections with kids, but we don't have a formal way of really assessing, is it doing what we want it to be? So I think the curriculum of Project Happiness really has helped give us a formalized structure that's consistent grades 6, 7, and 8. And what's nice about it, Carrie and I have been talking a lot about that, it's not a one-year deal. It's not like we're done. It builds upon each year so we can continue it through in the coming years. Because I think the important conversations are, what does it mean for 7th grade next year and for the 8th grade next year? Incoming 6 kind of naturally can fit in and then work on that. So that's something we're looking at. And really want to make sure that we're instituting also opportunities for academic check-ins in a true advisory model and supporting kids. One thing that we've thought a lot about is looking at the half days differently during the time, not just for staff, but also for students. In the past, we've taken it as just 7 20-minute periods, cutting the day in half. And looking at that, can we use that time differently now to work on things like maybe an extended advisory time, because we have it more often, and looking in that so we can free up some time that maybe we have lost with the overly structured daily advisory. So that's something we're really looking at as a school to maximize that. And I'm excited about that because that'll give us some time for some of our other goals. One of which being is digital portfolios and looking at the way of archiving and curating our student work. And one of the pieces that we're challenged with is the time to do that. And also want to make sure that that's thoughtfully integrated across the board. So it's not just we do it in advisory, that our teachers in our different disciplines are doing it. And we want to, I'd say right now, it's happening in pockets. And they're all good pockets, but we want a kind of programmatic approach to curate our work. into personalized learning, and to make sure that we're giving time for students to represent who they are as a learner and to add that idea of reflection into it. Because our goal is to foster reflective learners. So that ties into our work that we've been really doing over the past formally 5 years, but informally for about 10 or so, looking at our systems of feedback and reporting and assessment and standards-based reporting. This is our 4th year of expanded long pilot. For some subjects, it's been 6th grade science has been since the start. Other disciplines really starting right now, formally doing it. In different places, we're integrating that in. And really, this is continued work. Our site council read that we're going to start the year with is What School Could Be by Ted Dentersmith, which is a very, there are a lot of different books out there, but it's an excellent book about ideas that Ted Dentersmith had traveled around the country looking at all different types of schools, envisioning what could school be and looking at that work. 2 other things that we just want to touch on, and then a few other highlights. One is, this is our 2nd year of having the opportunity for school-managed iPads, which is really, not all families opt into it. Any that are leased through the schools or borrowed through the schools, it's an automatic through the system, but it's a really nice way for us to management on the end of pushing apps out and really helping in that way. Not all families opt in, but it's a nice option. It does help on just the day-to-day maintenance of it for our school, which is something we want to work on. And then other aspects that we're looking at are continued work with co-teaching, really looking at that model and is it working and what are the systems way. We had some couple meetings today with some of our teachers about looking at some different models and trying to collaborate with other schools, which is we're doing more of also through our Job Alike, really formally connecting teachers to teachers and using that. So why are we working in isolation? Why aren't we working with our Job Alike, not just on the administrative level, but on the teacher level as well, trying to create some Job Alikes for them. And then re-examination of our space, which is always a constant discussion. Is the space allowing for the learning experiences we want? Anyway, you had asked about the homework policy and consistency. I think a lot of the work we've done at the middle school, I will say the cluster model can really help with conversations about sort of as best we can manage the load, because we do have the natural piece of teachers talking towards one another. It's not always perfect. I think what we want to make sure we're always a broken record conversation about is consistency. So we don't have this cluster has this view on homework, this cluster has this, and even on time. That if we're not consistent across the board, we're not singing the same song together to create that kind of what our values are as a system. So we don't want to have one science teacher that gives no homework, one giving 20 minutes of homework. That's different values on learning. So we want to make sure we're having those conversations. This is our 5th year for our ADL peer trainers, which is great. We're trying to give them more of a solid voice in the school, so it's not just working in pilots. Also, we opened it up this year so it wasn't just there was an application process, but any students who are interested are able to. So it wasn't like anyone made a quote cut in that way. So I'm trying to make it more inclusive, which has presented other challenges as well. I want to make sure students are there for real investment. We had a couple of students go down and say, I'm not sure where I'm going, but I think it's called ADL. It's like, well, maybe that's not the right forum for you. And then just some things that we're excited about. We had a couple presenters at MassQ last week. Some of our staff will be presenting at the EdTech Teacher Innovation Summit coming up and Learn Launch as well. And then also thrilled that actually one of our former teachers, Christine Power, who's a resident in town, is a professor at BC, is connected with us to look at our systems of feedback that we're doing at the middle school, because some of her colleagues are looking for at the secondary, some schools that are looking at standards-based reporting and implementing. So we have a meeting coming up with one of her colleagues and her, and then also meeting with our department chairs to kind of talk about what's going on at the collegiate level, because that's often a conversation of that, which is sometimes hard to believe that 6th grade parents are wondering about that, but it's an important conversation. I'll do a plug for our Twitter chats, and hoping the school committee can hop on the district-wide Twitter chats. One will be next week. And then also our guidance counselors have their upcoming parent coffee. They're doing a sort of a more loose forum for their fall coffee, kind of just an open discussion, asking for questions. And I have a few things to highlight, but more just a question and answer forum for parents. And that's in response to what some parents have asked for. I'll touch on what Steve mentioned about the FUSE program. Marjorie Heim is our FUSE fellow, working with the Highlander Institute. And then our 4 early adopters are Kathleen Caprio, Greg Cohan, Aaron Carney, and Julie Dalzell. We really want to design it so each grade level had representation and the different disciplines to kind of spread that work. And then also we have our first drama performance formal drama performance. We have drama every day at Blake, but is Dracula next weekend. And thanks to Tracy Allen and Maureen Doctoroff for their leadership with that. So I know I speak quickly and share a lot, but any questions?
You know, I just want a quick pitch on what is the Highlander Institute, because I have not heard about that.
So Highlander Institute is I think maybe Jeff, the best way is kind of, or Leo, a think tank in a way out of Rhode Island. And Sean Rubin is the name that you'll hear a lot, kind of, if I'm right. I mean, I'm kind of looking at you, both of you, to help work that. And so the FUSE program, it started out of Rhode Island, the FUSE Rhode Island. And Donna, you've had colleagues, right, that have been part of it. And their idea is to kind of look at blended learning. And what does that look like, models of it. And so Jeff, with the Education Cooperative, kind of they adopted into it, and we're looking for schools and districts to work and look at that, to kind of pilot teachers in that way. So kind of pick fellows from the district. And so we, as a district, looked at having an elementary fellow, Julie Lowry, middle school, Marjorie Heim, and at the high school is Carrie Lynch. And so they have been doing some boot camp training over the summer to do that. And they are doing work with us, but more formally, their role is to go into other districts who are partnered, and they go in and consult and meet with their early adopter teachers. So for instance, Marjorie is partnered with the Millis Public Schools. So she goes into the middle school and high school, observes some teachers, and works on those practices. So it's helping build that network on a deeper level. And then we have fellows from other districts who come in to visit Dale Street, Blake, and the high school and give that feedback to kind of get those conversations going. And at our level, it's a design team that has like the administration from the building, some department chairs, and then also students on it as well. Campbell's actually one of the students who's on it as well, to get that voice looking at it in the piece. So it's a 2-year sort of commitment. And Meg Smallage, who is our kind of contact person with the FUSE Rhode Island Highlander Institute, they're working on, will this continue like 2-year model after? And that's kind of selfishly my hope, and I think our hope is to kind of continue to build that network. So it's been great. I mean, Jeff, you can probably talk more about it from tech.
Yeah, so we, as part of the tech board, we had some funds left over in, I think, fiscal year 18, I believe. And so part of the charter is either give the money back to the school districts or you can invest in something. So we got together and wanted to invest in Highlander and make it available to our districts. So not all districts took advantage of it. You know, we voted to do that. It was interesting, and that was a part of some of those meetings where other districts didn't want to do it. I mean, they just didn't want to take the risk, so to speak. And I remember being with Matt, we were actually at Noon Hill with a bunch of folks trying to get people involved in it. And I finally said, like, what's the downside? Like, so what if it doesn't work? You know what I mean? You're going to get teachers working together. You're going to get access to blended learning, all this information. So what? Then try something new next year, you know, but there are some places that just don't want to do that. And I know you and I were laughing about it after the meeting because it just seems so foolish. You have a great opportunity to work with Highlander. You can give opportunities to your teachers, your kids. Just go for it. Yeah. And that's what we've done. So it's been successful so far.
Yeah, it was just right. It was in some of the early conversations. I was just thinking, am I missing something? What's the sort of? I really wasn't sure with the downside. I'm thinking, on a level, like, yeah, it's a cost on the district for the tech, but it was like, this is free professional development with some pretty vetted sources, and we're going to foster connections. I'm just not sure. And, you know, I think Marjorie, Carrie, and Julie would say it's definitely more things on their plate, and these are teachers that go above and beyond all the time. But I would say, talking to each of them and then early adopters at Blake, they're saying, like, by far, my thinking of my teaching is on such a deeper and richer level each day, which is what we want.
No, that's
So it's
super.
been great,
I'm
yeah.
glad you guys are doing it.
So thanks.
Wonderful. And just one other thing I wanted to touch upon
Sure.
is the increased advisory time.
Yeah.
I think, you know, especially at the middle school level, I think when you've got more trusted adults connecting with kids, all the work we're doing, that just supports that in terms of connectedness and I just hope it continues.
Yeah, I think the thing that we're feeling is it's like, on some level, I'm glad we have recess, but it's like, okay, sometimes we have one recess for 22 minutes a week. So what do we, I think you could argue we could take advisory time and have recess every day. I can make an argument for that, and then you have some of our literacy specialists and also others saying sustained silent reading is a great use of advisory. It's all good problems, but I think we want to make sure that we're not losing touch of what you're talking about, that formalized piece, so kind of making sure we're looking at time. And I think that is the larger picture of our whole schedule piece, which ties into a lot of that work as well.
Yeah, I was going to comment that the strategic use of the schedule is absolutely an untapped resource in our space, particularly around advisory in the 6 to 12 level. And there's a lot of research in that space around how to strategically use that time effectively outside of just open, sorry students, I mean, you can have another recess, but during that time where you have the ability to collaborate with your peers and your other staff.
And I think that's a piece of it's the first year of more of a formalized curricula with Project Happiness. And I think some teachers, depending on where they're at too, is like, okay, seeing that as a script versus that's a real opportunity to connect with our kids as well. So that's not lost time on advisory, it's just looking at it a little differently as well. So
It's been a real focus on developing the personal interests, with extra resources around as well, that you can grow your program because you have that schedule.
Right.
So I'd love to hear that. That's great.
Sure.
I just, about 6 years ago, you were here, and we launched the iPad pilot project.
Yeah.
Maddie's class was the first class, right? Might not have been your cluster,
It wasn't mine. It was my class.
but not your cluster. But I think, one of the things that could get lost in your presentation is this, I don't know if it's a new pilot, but this move towards school-owned iPads, because I think that, so many people are excited about what the iPads have done for teaching and learning, but as many positives as there are for teaching, there are a lot of distractions. And, when we own them, that you could take a lot of those away. People can't put texting in, they can't put Fortnite in, or, any of those other things that teachers cannot see 20 screens at a time. And I think a lot of kids are distracted in school, and it's a huge cost to really do that across the district, but I think it's something we should continue to look at, because I think, being able to lock those down and make them really just learning tools and not distractions, or less of distraction, I think would be really
So now, what are we at,
helpful.
30%?
Yeah, I mean, I think actually, as a school, 30%, I would say in the current sixth grade class is closer to 40% with that. So I think that's what we're starting to see too, is some families, and I think there's the piece of, on the cost piece, but then there's also families that have brought in their own, but they're opting for the managed piece from the school, because we can pretty much lock it down. You can't take care of the internet fully, and then I think there's rules at home, but there's that piece of, we can take that piece off. And I think that the families, it's been a very good option, because some kids can manage it well, most can't. Adults can't. We all struggle.
Yeah, I would comment that it's about, with the management, allows that partnership between the schools
100%.
and home to, aside from locking it down, because I know all the kids just cringed and they said, but I love my Fortnite. As opposed to, that partnership of being able to have the schools guide that management at home. Obviously, screen time's a big part of that.
Yeah.
But without that shared management piece, it's very hard for the schools to participate in that with the home.
Which ties to a lot of the content about like citizenry and digital citizenry, and trying to drop that word digital, because now it's just part of our natural work. But that's a big piece too, is looking at that. And again, that's kind of like a thing that we used to kind of teach in advisory. It's got to be taught across every discipline and generalized, because the kids know the right answers, but they don't know it in real context.
It's your digital footprint that you're
exactly
right now.
Yeah. So.
To coin a phrase from someone from Highland Direct.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
You feeling better now?
I am, thank you. Thank you, I appreciate the check-in.
We're going to work on the 8th grade spirit on the rise up.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. It was a very successful opening this year at Medfield High School, and big thanks to our office staff, our teachers, our custodians for getting the building ready for our students. So this year on day one, we opened up with exactly 800 students, which I believe is the lowest number in my 8 years as principal here at Medfield High School. Within those 800 students, there were 13 new students, most of them freshmen from other communities. And this year, we only had 3 new hires, which I also think was probably the lowest number in my 8 years here. Jason Bielik, who is our new music department chair. He also is our band director here. Brittany Hardiman, who's one of our nurses, and Kathy Smith, who's one of our secretaries. And that was the extent of our new hires this year. So lots of things happening over the first couple of months, but right now I want to talk a little bit about our NEASC reaccreditation, which is happening here next week in terms of the visit. So we're in the process of being reaccredited by the New England Association of Schools and Colleges, also known as NEASC. So next week we'll be hosting 4 outside educators for 2 days in what NEASC calls their collaborative conference. So a year ago here at the high school, we completed our self-study, which highlighted several priority areas These areas were identified by staff who were either assigned or signed up to be on one of 5 subcommittees. So NEASC, in their new process that we are going through now, we're actually one of the pilot schools going through the new process. They have five standards, and those are learning culture, student learning, professional practices, learning support, and learning resources. So several of our half days last year were spent working on these standards that resulted in the following 5 priority areas that we identified for Medfield High School. In no particular order, one of them is written curriculum. The MHS faculty has identified a need for a standard format for written curricula across all departments. We have written curricula. However, the format is inconsistent, and we have also found that in some cases, especially with some of the new courses that we've added and introduced here at the high school over the past several years, the written curriculum isn't where it needs to be. So this will be an item that we will work on throughout this year. A focus on transitions that has been identified as another priority area for us. And that, by that, what we're talking about are student transitions to Medfield High School, whether it be 8th to 9th grade transitions, and also new students to the Medfield community. In either case, we want to make sure that we create a process that provides our students with the best possible support as they acclimate themselves into our learning community. A third priority area is common planning time. That's been identified as an area here of need. Currently, regularly scheduled common planning time happens infrequently here at the high school, not because philosophically we don't support it, but rather it's a function of our schedule. Because we offer a vast array of different courses. So in general, the more courses you offer, the more challenging it becomes to schedule common planning time. So as we continue incorporating common assessments and other effective teaching strategies, our staff would like to see how we might be able to incorporate common planning time into our existing school day. So that'll be a focus area that we're looking at within our schedule, among other things. HVAC, and that has been something that actually, so I don't know if any of you, no, none of you were here at the last reaccreditation, or last accreditation, which was 10 years ago.
I was here when the report came out.
You were, yeah. So that was a year before I got here. So this was sort of one of the carryover items. So it continues to we want to continue the attention to the maintenance and repairs of our HVAC system. It's been an area that sort of never seems to go away, and in general, the climate control has been inconsistent throughout certain parts of the year and certain parts of the building, so not all, not everywhere within the building. However, there have been enough documented issues that the folks felt it was warranted to make that as a priority area, so it's something that Jeff and Michael and I have talked about a little bit, so we're going to look at that. The mission statement and core values and vision of the graduate. So this is really exciting for us. Although the school has a mission statement and core values, we want to establish a vision of the graduate statement that we feel best represents our learning community. So the following I'll read to you is a draft of our vision of the graduate that we're going to submit and talk about with the visiting team next week. So it states that the Medfield High School envisions a graduate who is an active and reflective member of their community. Students will graduate with the ability to think critically and communicate effectively using technology skillfully and ethically. They will pair these academic skills with empathy and resilience to be prepared for adulthood. Students will be able to balance responsibilities with their physical and social emotional well-being. Students will also show a willingness to take risks and understand mistakes are part of the journey of a lifelong learner. So this vision of the graduate piece is something that we've added. We've had the mission statement and we've had our core values. And one of the things that we want to add along with the vision of the graduate is a focus on making sure that all learners in our community know what our vision is. We haven't done a good enough job of getting that message out. So this is all very good work that we have ahead of us. As I mentioned earlier, next week we have a team of 4 outside educators who are going to spend 2 days in the building working with teachers and interviewing teachers and staff and parents. This is sort of step 1. Our 10-year reaccreditation process will be completed in 2020, so there'll actually be another team visiting us in about a year and a half. So the team of 4 educators who are coming next week will submit a report of their finding to us in the spring. It'll be something we'll work on for about a year, and in 2020 we will be up for reaccreditation. So that's been taking up a lot of our time here over the past year. I want to send a big thanks to our co-chairs, Stephanie Worthley and Melinda Lohan. They've done a lot of work in coordinating all of this. And like I said, I assume in the spring I'll probably come out at some point to share the NEAS recommendations that they put together. So as I mentioned, it's been a good and busy couple of months. Lots has been happening since day one, whether it's mid-year exams. So the new schedule that we've put together for that time of year has been well received by teachers, students, and parents. Challenge Success. We had a team of teachers and students from Bamboo, China here a few weeks ago. Our sports teams, as Peter said earlier, are wrapping up the fall season. Playoffs started today for some of the teams. And we have our fall play, the Midsummer Night's Dream, coming up in mid-November. And I'm probably missing a whole host of other things that are happening between now and Thanksgiving. So once again, just a big thanks to school committee for all your support and our teachers and staff for the good work that they do here at the high school. Regarding the homework policy, I know you'd mentioned that earlier. So a lot of those conversations, as the others had said, are really happening at the department level with teachers, making sure that consistency is in place. The big piece that we keep emphasizing with teachers is that whole idea of making sure that the work we are assigning is meaningful and purposeful. So that's really been sort of the focus for us. We're a few weeks into it. I haven't gotten any feedback either way, but I know that there are a lot of discussions at the department level right now with teachers in regards to this policy. We've had a couple PTL meetings and coffees where that's been discussed as well. So my hope is that as we continue to get feedback, we'll make adjustments as need be, but it's been pretty quiet so far. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I was just going to say, I was here when we got the report for the last accreditation, and it is a lot of work, and I appreciate everything that you put into it. From a district standpoint, it is a great opportunity, because we're not a district whose accreditation is legitimately ever going to be in, well, ever is a long word, but it is not going to legitimately be in jeopardy, and I've been in districts where it is, but it is sort of, you've got professional educators from other districts who come in and look, and last time around, I remember one of the big recommendations was that our assessment systems weren't aligned, and so that our curriculum, while we're teaching the same thing, we were testing it in different ways in different classrooms, and I think that we reacted to that and it enabled us to really become a lot more aligned in our teaching. It's just one example that I remember from 9 years ago now, but I'm glad they're coming back in. Sometimes they can be a little heavy-handed, I know, when they talk about fixing the HVAC and things like that. They try to get you to build a new school sometimes, but.
Well, the new process, this format's a lot better. I've always felt, I'd been, when I was in Natick, I went through the process, and I wasn't the principal here when NEAS was last year, but I was involved a little bit. The process now is really intended to support what is happening in each individual school. So I felt like before it was very prescriptive, and recommendations were made that I wasn't entirely certain were recommendations that were in the best interest of our learning community. What I like about this process, and the self-study is always great. I mean, we can do a self-study every other year as far as I'm concerned, because so many things are identified when you take a hard look at the work that you're doing. But the self-study and the process, the way it's in place now, which allows us to really highlight and emphasize priority areas that we think are important to the work that we're doing right now, was crucial. So we literally got every single teacher on a subcommittee, and the work that came out of that was pretty good. A couple of these priority areas I had a sense were coming, and I'm glad that they were able to identify them, they being the teachers, because it's a lot better when it's coming from them and they're able to identify some of the needs. So the process was very helpful, and I think going forward over the next year and a half, starting with the visit next week, I think the work will be going in a direction that best meets kind of where we are right now. So it's a better process and shorter and not as
good, because it was pretty draining in the past.
It was, yeah.
Great. Thanks, Rob.
Mm-hmm.
Just one other thing. There's a theme here in terms of, they pointed out the transitions, especially 8th to 9th grade, and I think, maybe the work that you guys are doing at Advisory at Blake, my 2 cents would be, getting those incoming ninth graders to just connect a bit more with guidance, maybe meeting one-on-one with them, 10, 15 minutes, just, again, making a connection within the building. So it's more meaningful, it's less daunting, and again, research shows when they're connected to a trusted adult in the school. So that would just be my tidbit. I know you're meeting with, you have parent things, but I thought I'd be remiss if I didn't share that. But and I think the core value statement, that's something, the vision for the graduates, I think that's a great thing if that is with every decision, if that could be, is this feeding into, or is this meaningful work in relation to our core values? So, good stuff.
Thank you.
More,
Yeah, the adult connection piece is huge. I mean,
Sorry?
it's the adult connection piece with students is huge.
We've been talking about that for years, yes, a lot of our students play sports. Yes, a lot of them are in clubs, but we still have a chunk of kids who just aren't connected.
Yep.
So I think those are the kids we want to draw in.
Right. Oh, and I should mention esports. Can I mention that real quick? The esports?
Sure.
Yeah, so this is, I know he's smiling. So the.
I thought I was joking you for a second.
No.
When
So
Jeff sent me the email.
Kidding me? It's our college plan.
The MIAA has developed an esports league for high schools, and so we've signed up and we have a team. And it's very exciting. So they have their first, I don't know if it's game or match, next week. And so basically we've got a team of 6 students who are going to be in one of our computer labs competing against other students from another high school. And it's a full-fledged MIAA pilot activity, pilot sport they're calling it. So we're excited for that. E-games, yep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's big.
It's a thing.
It's very big.
It's a big thing.
Yeah, so when the MIAA threw it out there to schools interested, we sort of
run laps before
we
they
no
play or something?
we jumped right on it and sent some information out to students, and right away we had a group of students who were like all in. So they're getting shirts, they're kind of ready to go, and it's exciting. And I think most of the high schools in the area are putting together a team. I haven't gotten a complete list, but just the other principals in the area that I've talked to, they're all in. So, yeah, so another sport for the Warriors. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll update you on that. That starts next week, so that'll be a lot of fun. What's that?
Is there a pep rally?
Making fun.
But again, though, it also speaks to reaching every single learner,
Yep.
every single kid who has every single kind of ability.
Right.
And not necessarily having to focus on traditional athletics as that which is the most admired.
Sure. Yeah.
So as much as we laugh about it, it's also a very
Absolutely.
valuable way
Yep.
of helping kids learn strategy.
Yep.
And has as much investment in athletics, although it's in the virtual world.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're highly strategic games, and it has been endorsed by the NCAA.
Mhm.
It grew out of the Midwest a little bit.
Oh, yeah, so what games do they play?
I don't know the name of it, but it's not Fortnite.
Okay.
But it's a game sort of like that. League of Legends. That might be it.
Sorry?
And I knew it was going to come to
What
me.
was
So
League of Legends.
it's a strategy sort of game where you've got teammates and kind of go and
So will that go
conquer
th-
things.
Will that go through the same budget process as new sports activities? Is there a budget associated with it?
Well, to get it going, we just needed the terminals, and the MIA didn't have a fee. So they're using it as a pilot year. We'll see kind of where it goes from here. So some of the students were bringing in their own headsets and things like that, but we have
If we know
one of
the
our new
MIA,
computer
there'll be
labs.
fees next year.
What's that?
I said, if we know the MIA, there'll be fees next year.
Perhaps, yeah. So we're taking
Well,
advantage of
like
our.
coach, there must be some.
We have someone on staff.
Okay.
Yeah. And we are going to use one of our new computers in the computer labs that we were able to purchase this year. So Owen said those are the machines that the kids want to use. So, yeah, we'll see.
And one of the other large undertakings, I would imagine, is the consistency across the curriculum and the formatting, because it's requiring some rewriting and some
Yep.
curriculum review process
Yeah.
in the process.
Yeah, that's the one that we knew kind of going in, and I was happy that emerged because it's been a challenge for us as we continue to incorporate new classes into our program of studies, making sure that the curriculum is consistent, so that another teacher can come in and kind of pick up that information and kind of carry on. Right now, we're not quite there, so this is important work that we need to do, and I'm glad that it was identified as a priority area.
I'm assuming we don't print off the 3-ring binder anymore.
Nothing
I
wrong
don't
with
know
it.
where all those, there's a lot of binders somewhere.
Yeah.
Save some trees.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Robert.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, I think you can see there's a lot going on here, a lot of good things going on, and we're very fortunate to have great teachers and certainly great administrators too. So, thanks for coming
Thank
tonight. We
you.
appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Good stuff.
And for staying for
Good night.
everybody.
All right, next we've got the FY20 budget calendar, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In your packet, you have the draft FY20 budget calendar. Typically, what we've done is create this, bring it to the committee, and then if you agree with it, you vote to accept it. If not, we make adjustments, and we can bring it back into the November meeting. But pretty standard in terms of, what we're doing with our schedule. So tonight, adopting the FY20 budget schedule and calendar and timetable. And then the next, few weeks, Michael and I meet with leadership team, department chairs, and we talk about the operating budget and the capital budget, start, looking at some of the guidelines that we set for that. And then November 6th is the annual meeting with the Board of Selectmen, the warrant committee, and the school committee. So that's the doom and gloom meeting that we have every year, that every town has. Right before Thanksgiving, looking at the submission of our preliminary budgets to Michael. And then we spend a lot of time in the 3 or 4 weeks after that, meeting with the principals and all the department chairs to kind of figure out what some of the identifying needs are, and have a lot of good conversation. It takes a lot of time. We schedule about an hour and a half with each person and go through that. Some are a lot quicker than that, some take up the entire time. So we're looking at presenting to you a preliminary FY20 budget on December 17th at that meeting. And then what you typically do is direct us one way or the other. So we do another presentation on the 7th, and then looking at a public hearing for January 28th of 2019. And that is traditionally when you folks vote the budget at that public hearing. And then we need to submit it to the town the next day or the next couple of days. And then, of course, we have meetings with the warrant committee between February and March. And then town meeting is on the 29th again, which is again after April vacation. So 2 years in a row, it's the week after April vacation, not that Monday we come back.
That is actually one of the warrant articles that's coming up, is that correct?
Is
That
it?
they want
It
to
is.
change that April date, so that it does not fall right after
That's good.
April vacation, which I
That's
think
good.
would be
First
extremely helpful
Monday
for
in May, right?
the entire
Everybody.
town, yeah. I have one kind of question and concern.
Sure.
Which is that, as I know that how long it takes to develop a budget, and I know the amount of work it takes. But I also know that the public hearing on the 28th, and then the submission on the 29th, has been a bit of a bugaboo, because there is this kind of perception that we put in public comment, and then we're almost obliged legally, because we have to by the 31st submit this.
Mm-hmm.
Are there ways that we can creatively, as a group, think about how we can be garnering kind of, or front-loading public comment on our, and being better at outreach? Although I think we do it quite well, but I do think that there's a lot of room for trying to get more input before, so that there are people who do have concerns, how concerned they are, can come to us, and we can be incorporating that, hearing that, and understanding that before we have to have a public hearing and a vote the same evening, because that's really how we need to do that here. So I'm wondering if there's a creative way that we can be thinking about how we're able to get more input during those times. Now, we do have these multiple kind of opportunities for review, obviously. But
So he's suggesting
do you
another-
understand what I'm, or does the rest of the committee at this point kind of understand what I'm talking about right now?
I understand what you're saying. The public hearing requirement and the vote, there are certain calendar dates that are required. And as we said last year, and maybe, I hate to respond to perception. I mean, when we vote our initial budget, that is never our final budget.
Right.
There's a lot that goes on between January and April, and that's part of the process. I think there's a misperception that the process ended at the end of January. It never has, and it didn't last year, and I wouldn't expect it will this year. But I think what you're saying is that we're getting that feedback at that moment. I mean, one thing we could do is encourage Jeff to do a more fulsome presentation on the 7th and a more fulsome outreach for people to come on the 7th and give their views. Ultimately, it's our view to you that will direct you, but you know, the legally required public hearing, I think, has to come a certain number of days before town meeting, right?
Yeah.
Is that what it keys off of?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, there's a lot of kind of moving parts in terms
Right.
of how,
yeah, I mean, we don't really have a lot of guidance from the warrant committee, for example, until, we have the initial guidance from the doom and gloom meeting, but
Right.
until the rest of the town's budgets start really coming together
Right.
in January and February, it's not, we don't really have a good sense of what our budget realistically could be. The budget we vote in January very often is our ideal budget. Maybe it's not our ideal budget, because our ideal budget it's our ideal
Be a lot
budget within
higher.
the context of agreements we have with the
environment that we've
town
been
and budgetary
kind of given.
limitations.
So there are other districts that their entire public hearing isn't a presentation, it's answering the questions that parents have submitted prior to that meeting. So what they do is they send out something saying, here's the budget, you know, PowerPoint or the line item, whatever. Please submit your questions to be answered at the public hearing. I mean, that's something we could look at doing too, I don't know.
Yeah, one thing we might consider, Jeff, is, this is more work for you, but since we're such a forward-moving
and
district.
you have all that extra time.
Pushing out, you recording a video and pushing out a link about,
Yeah.
so it doesn't have to be to us, you know, your presentation to the community about the budget. I can tell you, I mean, I'd be pleased to have more feedback. I won't be it's unlikely I'll be at the January 7 meeting. I have a trial going out that day, but if we encourage more feedback at that meeting, you know, again, I think the public hearing date is, my understanding of it is it's fixed a little bit by calendar. But if you pushing out a PowerPoint presentation is not helpful, I don't think, because you add so much color to it from your years of experience, not just here but elsewhere. That to hear you, you know, explaining your budget, which at that point it is, it's
Yeah,
your budget
yeah.
before it's ours, and advocating for that, you know, maybe between, I can't think about where it might be on the calendar, but what I would suggest is you think about that and maybe work with Jessica and come back at the November meeting with some suggestions on it, but in the
Sure.
meantime, we would approve the process up through and including the December 17th meeting. Not that you're waiting for us to get going on the budget to get a vote on those steps, but
Right.
I think it helps you to have those dates set
Sure.
in stone. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you'll support this evening, tonight till the 17th? Does that
Oh,
make
absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
So moved.
Second?
So, somebody's got a second. for
Somebody's
you.
got to. It's late.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Passes.
I would think of just one little comment, just to,
Sure.
As you're, you know, obviously after as it's been referred to, the doom and gloom meeting.
Yes.
You know, and then you're going back to see where your, you know, the pain points are gonna be, because there are always gonna be those. I would say just getting the word out there sooner about what the pain points are, so that we can hear the response
Okay.
back from the community. You know, I don't think I need to talk about class size anymore, but, sorry. But using that as an example. for
Right,
the-
sure, yeah,
to
yeah, no
to
doubt.
have that out there, so there is more time. And then, so maybe there's a little less emphasis put on it, that the only opportunity is that meeting in the
Mhm.
auditorium, right?
Mhm.
So I think that there's a little more of a window, and people feel like they have that time. Now, obviously, it's a tough time of year, but, you know, we have strong networks here, and we have strong personal networks, and when personal interests come out, they do get the word out. So I think
I
that.
hadn't seen that.
Yeah. They do make themselves known, so.
Sure.
But I think that's, you know, a testament to, if we get that information out, we
Yeah,
get it
absolutely.
out better, we can take that into consideration in more time period. So it's less 2 or 3 days, you know, of,
Right.
oh my God, can you believe it? And then.
Yeah. And I also think that there's just, you know, the more time we spend and the more we're able to communicate, the more people are able to join with us and really understand where the sticking points
Mhm.
are. So, And if anybody wants to come to the doom and gloom reading, it's open meeting. If you want to hear the doom and gloom. I'll be there.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
your
No, no
flexibility.
problem.
Super, great
And
idea.
I appreciate all of you giving a little input there.
Super, thank you, Jess.
So if anyone thinks of something after tonight, just shoot me an email.
Okay.
Okay, that'd be helpful. Thank you.
All right, other items since posting?
I had none, Madam Chair.
Okay, neither do I. Old business donations.
I would ask that you approve the 4 donations. First one is Blake Middle School, $925 from Blake PTO to Blake gift account for Wingmasters in grade 7. Wheelock School, $1,238.32 from Wheelock PTO to Wheelock gift account for grade 3 Pilgrim Interpreter presentation. Also Wheelock School, $4,050 from Wheelock PTO to Wheelock School gift account for grade 3 field trip to Plymouth Plantation. And a district-wide Medfield Public Schools, $6,801.55 from Medfield CPAC to Medfield Special Education Advisory Council revolving account.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Can you just clarify the
CPAC?
transfer from CPAC to the CPAC revolving account?
So, state law says that the CPAC funding has to be in a CPAC revolving account that's controlled by school committee.
Okay.
So they're just closing out one account and putting it into.
That's part of the policy we adopted last spring where we
Right.
put in all those new,
Right.
those new
Mhm.
accounts. Okay. I move the superintendent's recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. Great. Superintendent's report to the school committee?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few things tonight. One is the October 1 enrollment figures. So you had that in your packet. I'm not crazy about the way Aspen does this, the way the setup is, but it gives you a really good sense of, where our kids are. You heard it all tonight from the principals. There's 1 or 2 differences from October 1 till today. But we're at 2,599 students on October 1. So that's the number that the state uses for Chapter 70 when they start to formulate the state funding for us. So that's why October 1 is always an important date for school districts, what the enrollment is on that particular day. If anyone has any questions about it, you heard it from the principals tonight, what each building was, so it's pretty clear cut. You'll see the class sizes there again. I can't emphasize enough how helpful it was in the override to get the class sizes down. When we look at the elementary classrooms, all at between 20 and 22 and a couple of 23s in there. Essentially at 20, 21, 22 all district-wide, so real happy about that. But if anything comes up, let me know about that. The important things on my report, 2 of them for the Dale Street project update. So in your packet, you had a couple of things. One is the enrollment certification, which is the most recent that we got from MSBA, and also the MSBA approved school building committee. So I'll look at the school building committee first. So if you look at that, let me pull that out. You'll see that we submitted that to MSBA. Get the right one here. In May, and it was just approved last week. So it did take a little bit of time to do that. We were on time. June 1st was our deadline on that, and we got it in before that. I think the issue that comes up here is that Tim Bonfatti was still on the school committee when this was submitted in May. He is no longer in the school committee, and he's listed as a school committee person. So I need to reach out to Mike Quinlan as chair, but I think it's something that we should talk about as a committee. Tim needs to be on that, obviously, because he's on the permanent building committee and his wealth of knowledge, but it looks like he probably shouldn't be on there as a school committee representative. So we got to figure that out. We can put it as an agenda item for next meeting if you'd like to talk about that and make an appointment, because then that triggers us contact MSBA, then they have to go through this approval process all over again.
Yeah, I think we do need to, on the one hand, I'd like to have Tim continue to do it, because he knows knows a heck of a lot more than the rest of us, but I do think the school committee itself needs to be represented, right? Represented, and I think it might be that other members of the PBC.
So Tim would still be a member of the committee, just not as a
It's
school
not a
committee
voting
member.
member. I think it's important that he's a voting member,
Yeah.
but I don't get to tell that committee how to do their business, so I would suggest that we make an agenda item for the November meeting to appoint a replacement for Tim. And in the interim, if maybe you and the chair can talk to Mr. Quinlan about some restructuring around that.
Right. I mean, from our understanding, Michael and I reaching out to MSBA, you can add someone if you need to. That's not a huge issue. It just has to go through. We have to notify them within 20 days of the vote, which would be after the next meeting. And then they would go through their process again on that, so.
Yeah, my concern isn't adding them, and they're not gonna have a problem with adding a school committee member. My concern is there's only a limited number of members of the committee that can vote. I
That can
think it's
vote.
4 right now.
Right.
And, again, I don't want to tell Mike how to run his committee. To me, it would be important that Tim would be a voting member.
I agree.
Because of anybody in town who knows about building schools, there's nobody in town who knows more about building schools
one.
than Tim. Although Mike's close.
So we'll have that as a future agenda item.
Yes.
All right, great.
And the second one was a letter that we received on October 16th that was addressed to Michael Marcucci, Chair of the Medfield Board of Selectmen. So this is the enrollment certification letter in which they discuss the methodology they use to come to what they feel is what we should consider building a school for and what size they should be building a school for. I said at this meeting before that after Michael and I and Christine Treelweiler went to that meeting in September, as we sat down, they told us this never happens. Typically, districts are telling us that they need more, and we're telling them they need less. You use NESDEC numbers, and you said 600. We're telling you if you want to do a 3, 4, 5, you want to think about 850 or 860. So it goes through their methodology. It goes through the last 10 years and tells you what they expect. And as I see, as a result of the analysis on the base enrollment forecast, the historical enrollment trends of the district, in the adjustment described above, the MSBA recommends for planning and studying purposes only, study enrollments for the proposed project as follows. District-wide school grades 4 through 5, 575 students. District-wide grades 3 through 5, 860 students. MSBA believes this study enrollment recommendation will position the district to efficiently meet space capacity needs throughout the future enrollment variations. And then it's asking us to sign and to return that. So I haven't had a conversation with Mike Marcucci about it yet. I think he's one of the people that needs to be a part of that conversation. But they're looking for signatures from Anime, from me, and from Mike on that. So it's, again, we were all surprised by that. NESDEC is going to run their numbers again very shortly. We should probably get them before the winter break, and we'll be able to compare. But this is something that's a crucial step in the process because you have to agree on what the enrollment is, and at least going forward for the purpose of the feasibility study. So that's where we are. I mean, this just codifies all what we've talked about for the last month and a half or so regarding this. Any questions at all on that, or?
So the town has to sign it.
The town has to sign it.
You have to sign it, and then Anime has to sign it.
Anime has to sign it. Right. And it doesn't lock us into anything. It's just what we're acknowledging the fact that this is what they recommend as a size of a school. If it's a 4-5 or a 3-4-5.
But typically, it's much smaller than the town thinks they're going to get.
Right.
Yeah. This
And
seems
you
like
notice there's language in there basically saying that if you want to do a restructuring of the grade levels, then, we're not responsible for anything you have to do with the other two schools. We're just paying for Dale Street. We're helping with Dale Street.
I saw that.
So if you do something to Memorial, do something with the grade configuration Wheelock, you're on your own. We're not giving you any money for that, so they want to make that perfectly clear.
So Jeff, I think we need to authorize Anime to do this. Is that right?
Sure.
I don't know. I'm asking.
I mean, I think we haven't in the past with.
She's authorized to-
Actually, you know what, we have with SOI, so yeah, you probably should. She's authorized by position, but I think you probably should, just because we get that same authorization, we submit SOIs. So it probably makes good practice to do it.
And I move that we authorize the chair to sign on behalf of the school committee.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, passed.
And then informational items, I only had a couple of informational items. One is I received an email late this afternoon from Sarah Poser, town planner, and I will forward that to you tomorrow. She's asking for representation, or actually invitation to school committee members, to me, and to many people on town boards. So there's a proposed 40B for Pound Street, And I believe it's November 6th, they're going to do a walkthrough of the area, and the builder's gonna, and the developer's gonna talk about what that looks like.
On Pound Street?
This is different than the town kind of local interest project that is
Right.
being built there already.
Right.
Or next to it.
Right, so it's at or about 30 Pound Street. I didn't go by Pound Street after I got this to see what it was. But it's a senior housing. I believe it's 42 units, but I'll forward you the email tonight or tomorrow so you get she asked me to forward it to the school committee. But I want to just put that on your radar. That's coming up on the 6th. I just want to also recognize Diane Horvath. So Diane Horvath is our technology integration specialist at Blake, and she won a MassQ Pathfinder Award this year, so one of 4 people in the state to win that. Really just recognizing her for the great work that she does, innovative work in the classroom, and has done a great job at Blake. And it was nice to see her get recognized by her peers, and Leo was there, literally, 1,000 educators anyway in the room, so that was great. I have a nice picture of her getting the award. It's going on my blog tomorrow, so I just want to recognize her for doing a great job, and just fortunate to have her in our district, and does some great work for our kids. So that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Super. Alrighty. And future agenda items, we have Medfield 2021 update, MCAS presentation, and DESE coordinated program review presentation. Our next meeting is Monday, November 5th. And do we have any other? Oh, first, welcome to our.
Welcome, Megan.
Megan Glenn, our interim school committee member. Thank you, Megan, for serving, stepping up. And do we have any comments? Maddie?
Because we're way past Maddie's bedtime.
Yes, we are.
My
40
body
minutes.
has shut down. Right now, student council is just working on, I think we can all agree the can drive is the best thing that we do all year. It's so fun because it's a competition between the first period classes on who can bring in the most cans, and every year it's so many cans that we bring in. We're also doing pep rally and powder puff planning. And I'm in charge of, with Lily Bannister, starting to plan for Putting for Patients, which is a huge, it's a huge event that we have in March. I think it's March 16th or something like that, which we're getting excited for. And yeah, it's pretty fun right now.
Super. Very exciting for the seniors.
Thanks,
Yes.
Maddie.
Yes.
Thanks, Maddie.
Megan, do you have anything to add? Any updates?
Still taking it all in.
This is
Yeah.
the period
This is your
where
chance
you,
to just-
Oh, it
you make
is?
personal statements of some sort or whatever, kind of interest or
Anything stand out
updates.
to you? Or, I know this is overwhelming.
Yeah, no, I was just happy to be able to hear all the blurbs from all of the principals, and I especially am curious about the K through 5th report card that they're working on. I thought that was great.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
and thank you for the warm welcome.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do want to clarify, I think we had previously authorized the chair to work with MSBA, so I think it's just a clarifying vote there. But I think that was within the earlier authorization with the SOI. I want to welcome Megan. It's good to have you here. I missed him, but it's good to have you. We do, before our next meeting, the MCP fundraiser, Pure Imagination, is coming in. Is that the name of it?
Fall ball?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the
but
fall
that-
ball, but it's got a theme.
Yeah,
like-
you're right, I think, right?
The
Something
Charlie and the
imagination.
Chocolate
Yeah.
Factory.
Yeah, right.
Willy Wonka, yeah.
Okay, well, I was going to wear my purple suit, and then I said it was just, they said no costume, so I was
Wouldn't have been a
disappointed about that.
costume.
But I'm
You
looking
can go
forward,
ahead.
looking
Do
forward
it.
to that.
No one's going to stop you.
And somebody, my wife will stop me.
Oh.
That might stop you if that was the case.
Yeah. Jeff, we talked a couple times last year about looking into start time changes at the high school and the middle school, and I just wanted to check, if we can get a check-in sometime in the next couple of meetings on where those discussions are. I know that's a long conversation that we need to have, but.
Yeah, SEL Task Force is looking at that, so
Yeah.
that's part of what they're doing.
And then, we voted an executive session earlier tonight to refer yet another open meeting law complaint to council. And I know we haven't had legal counsel bills come in for the most recent ones. Do you know what the bill was for the open meeting law complaint we had in the spring?
Around 5,000.
Okay, so it's about $5,000 for each of those complaints.
I'd say so, yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're up to 5. I think, I think it's something to keep in mind as we talk about the cost of the district.
Mhm.
Thank you.
No other comments, except congratulations to Diane Horvath, and it was really nice to hear about the principals, from the principals this year. Some of the only other things I'd like to maybe talk about in the future is some of the approach the district's taking around curriculum continuity. I know that, I believe we have Chris Marta is working in some capacity working with that, and I know it's a goal of ours. Little feedback from some of the parents out there. They would like one website for students to go to at the high school, but I think there's been a lot of work in Google Classroom around that.
Mhm.
And then just more focus for parents, I guess, at the lower levels. I've been hearing that teachers do a lot. I think that just maybe some guidelines, but we can hear more about it and let you do the research
So
around
the
that.
website? I'm
The
sorry.
websites for the teacher websites.
Oh,
to
teacher
help at
website.
home, yeah.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
So, and I think that teachers do a lot of it, to be honest, as
Yeah.
I looked around, but maybe maybe some continuity where there can be the same expectation and help guide parents more than anything, I think.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of interest for them to help at home, so just some conversation around the curriculum and some of the curriculum goals, so.
So one of the things that we're doing curriculum-wise is getting, Chris is working with the department chairs and the principals. We're going to get back on a curriculum review schedule so that we're focused. So right now, elementary really did a lot on math the last 3 years, but we want to do this, look at a K-12 perspective on how we're going to do the curriculum review. So we're going to get on a calendar schedule so that each year it's going to be a different area, and we're going to work through that. Now, years ago, that used to be during textbook adoption, but now that's not the case anymore. So it's much more involved in terms of what websites teachers are using, what apps they're using, all of that. So it becomes more than just reviewing a textbook as it was years ago. So we're excited about that work. So we should have something on that soon.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Just a couple of quick things. We have school committee office hours on Thursday evening at the Blake LMC from 7 to 8. I will be at Memorial School all day pretending to be a first grader.
Yay, cute.
I'm pretty excited about that. And the 3 of us will be at MASC's statewide conference, I think starting the day after. I mean, we'll be in and out on various days.
I'll be there Friday, yeah.
So you'll be there on Friday. I'll be there the whole time. I think you'll be there for a couple of days. So hopefully we'll have some great learning there. And thank you very much.
Super. And the one thing I want to mention is the great conversation we had over at Blake on standard-based grading. It was, I went to a morning session. It was very well attended. There are lots of questions out there, and it's interesting. And I think the conversations will continue. I think a lot of us had questions. My 6th grader is now a freshman, yet 6th grade, when she was a 6th grader, science was standard-based grading, and now what some of the teachers are calling at the high school, we have real grades here. So there's cultural things going on, and so I'd like to see more consistency, more of a bigger vision. So that's doing good work over there. That's it.
All right.
I move adjournment.
Thank you all for hanging in with us tonight.